what we're going to do in this exercise is you are going to share the role of product owner. And we've already created you a backlog with stories that have already been refined by your team.
Yeah.
So each of these stories has a number on them, and they have a number of story points, which is the level of effort that it's going to require for your team to deliver that story. And they have a value, which has been created by a product owner, which indicates the amount of value that we're going to get from delivering that story. So you see story 1 has 1 point and it delivers 1 value, but story 3 is the same amount of points, but delivers double the value. So as a product owner, your job is to be the value maximizer. You need to maximize the value to your product. And that's what this exercise is all about. So we're going to do 3 sprints. It's going to simulate a sprint for each of you. So in your first sprint, your team estimates that they can deliver 17 story points worth of value. Now that's just an estimate. So as product owners, you need to decide amongst these stories, what is the highest value that you can deliver within that 17-point story point estimate of effort. So what we'll do, let's take, for example, story 3. That seems to be a good one. That's 1.2 value. What else has high story points? This is 3 points and 2 value, 5 points and 2 value. Let's look at this one. So story 15 is 8 points of effort and 1 value. Let's drag that to the bottom of the backlog for now. That might be something that we decide not to do ever because it's too much effort and not enough value. So let's have a look what else we can pull in. Let's try 3 points and 3 value. So we're up to 4 points. And sorry, Ming.
No, I was saying story 4.
Oh, story 4. Yep, 2 points, 1 value. We may as well put in some of these as well. So this is the exercise, is to try to maximize the value within the points estimate that we've got. Now we also have down here some epics. Now each of these epics has been partially refined by your team, but it needs further refinement. So each of these epics has a number of story points that is going to take for the team to refine those from epics into stories. So for example, epic 22 requires 3 points to refine, and the team estimates that that's going to break down into between 13 and 17 points worth of effort, and you estimate that that's going to deliver within 5 to 8 points worth of value. So when we work, so within the sprint, we can assign an epic to be refined. Now that means that you're not going to get the value immediately within that sprint from that epic, but you are going to unlock here, for example, completing this epic will unlock these stories. So the challenge is to try and figure out which epics we want to work on to maximize the value, to unlock them for future sprints. So let's work on epic 22 for the sake of simplicity here. So as I said, that epic will not deliver any immediate value, but it will unlock future stories for you, which might be higher value than some of the other stories. So then during your breakout rooms, you will decide as product owners how much work you're going to commit within the sprint. So let's say here we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So let's just drag in to make it 11, 15, and then we have 2 points left. Let's put in this 3-point story. So let's see what happens. The team is estimating 17 points. Let's put in 18 points and see what happens there. So that's what will happen during the breakout room, is that the product owners will decide amongst themselves, without our guidance, completely self-organized, what they're going to ask their team to commit to within the sprint. And then, this is part of the explain as well, we will look at a burn up chart. So every sprint, we will mark, we can use a icon here to mark how many points of value we've delivered each sprint. So we're going to be keeping track as we go through each sprint and going through that of how much value you've delivered. So all of the teams go into their breakout rooms. They decide what stories they're going to lock in. And then when they come back from the breakout rooms, we go and have a look at each team individually. So at this point is where I start to wing and improvise it. So if I find a team that have said, well, first of all, if they refine an epic, you don't add that to the increment. It stays within the sprint, and you just unlock the epic for them, so they can now go to the they can now unlock these stories. And however they want to organize the backlog, that's completely up to them. They may decide to drag these stories up here. They may decide during the sprint planning that they want to move these stories around and recategorize them. You can let them do whatever they want. That's an important thing for product ownership, is that the product owner decides how they manage the backlog any way they want, completely up to them, with the support of the Scrum Master. So when we go through, I go through each team individually and then say, okay, so let's have a look what you did. You committed X amount of points. So for example, this team committed 18 points, story points of effort, which is one more than the team predicted. Now, when this happens, I reward them and say, well done. You didn't push the team too far. And this 17 is only an estimate. You pushed them one story point and the team really rallied around it because of this epic that they wanted to unlock. So I try and tell a story around that and say, okay, great. So all of these stories were delivered. And then we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 points of value. So let's add a marker. At sprint 1, we delivered 11 points of value. Part of the improv game that I play, and this is just me, you might want to just play it completely straight without messing around or anything like that, because a lot of people will keep underneath, is if they, for example, if they commit only 16 points, then I will say, well, the team feel very confident now. So we're gonna, for the next sprint, so we go down here and unlock team A sprint 2. For the next sprint, the team estimate that they can do 18 points of value, 18 points of effort. So I just add a post-it or something like that to say, this is your new velocity. And I try and keep the velocity, try and alter the velocity, because that's what happens in real life. Or sometimes I'll do like the Kanban game, and I will just literally throw a curveball in and say, for example, let's put these back. So unfortunately, what happened in the last sprint, one of your developers was off with COVID. So you only managed to deliver 13 points. So these stories unfortunately go back to the backlog. They weren't completed and you only managed to deliver these, but you did manage to unlock the epic. And the same, you know, I might throw another random in to say, a new person's joined your team this sprint. You've had a new hire, your developers are now up to full speed. So we're now looking at 22 points for this sprint. And then if they try, at that point, if they try and hit the full 22 points, I'll then say, you only managed to get 21 points done because the new developer wasn't fully up to speed, for example. So it's exactly like the Kanban game, except I'm making it up as I go along. And as I said, that's just me. because I'm quite comfortable with this game and because I'm, you know, a mad scientist. So you can do it without any of that. You can just stick to the team estimate at 17 points throughout the whole game. And you can, if someone does try to push it with 18 points, you can say, yes, they did it. Or if someone tries to push it with 18 points, you can say, okay, so you only delivered 17 points, so you can play it straight down the line. However you want to do, however you feel with the team that's playing it, and however comfortable you feel with this game as a whole. So let's say, let's take the last scenario. So they've delivered 11 points, and I will go around each team. So I say, okay, team A, you've done this, and then go on to team B and say, okay, this is what happened with team B this week, etc., etc. So then let's use the example that, yes, you delivered 11 points of value, you've unlocked a new epic, and a new developer has joined you. So your new velocity is 22 points. So we go back into another sprint planning and we repeat again. So again, they go back into their breakout rooms and they decide, okay, we've got 22 points to spend. What do we want to do to maximize the value, etc., etc. Like this one is, we got 8.3 value. Yeah, let's go for 8.3 value. Let's try and get all the 3 values. That's what this team is trying to do. They're trying to maximize the complete value out of it. And let's try and unlock another epic as well. So both these epics give the same amount of value and the same amount of points. Let's just go for epic 3, etc., etc., etc. And then when they come out of the breakout rooms, the same again. You look at how many points they committed versus their velocity. You can either invent an event that happened, or you can just play it straight down the line with the velocity, decide what they deliver. So these are the stories that they delivered: 3, 3, 3, 3. So they delivered 12. That should be locked. So let's say you delivered 12 points, and because this is a cumulative graph, so for sprint 3, we delivered an additional 12 points of value. So that's about 23 on average. And we've unlocked epic 23. So we unhide 23 for them as well.
And each sprint is how many minutes are we giving them? 15 minutes?
I think 10 minutes is enough. One of the important things is that sprint planning is a time boxed event. So we want to kind of pressurize them a little bit, but not too much. But after the first sprint, sometimes I'll say, how do you feel about the time box? Is 10 minutes enough time? Or do you want more time? Or do you need less time? And it's okay to alter the time box, provided that the whole team agrees. So if you say, like, do you want to increase, if everyone says yes, we definitely need 15 minutes for this, and everyone votes yes, then you can say, okay, we'll go up to 15 minutes and we'll keep the time box at 15 minutes going forward. Like, that's the way that all of the Scrum events would work, is that you wouldn't just increase the time box for one sprint, for example. You would, when you make a change, it changes for the rest of the sprint until you need another change or have another consensus. Or if they feel like this is really easy, which has happened before with us, I think me and you, RT, were doing this once, when they said, like, we only need 8 minutes. So, no, we had, like, some people said we'll keep it at 10, some people said we only need 5. So we said, okay, let's go 8 minutes. Is everybody okay with 8 minutes? And we adjust it to 8, and it's stuck for 8 for the next 4 sprints. So 4 sprints is quite a lot. You might, depending on where you get, you might want to take a break after the second sprint, or if you, like when me and Mona did it, when we were running behind, we kept it only at 3 sprints. But the lesson here is, number one, the product owner is the value maximizer. So it's good to have teams sort of being a bit competitive about how much value they've got, who's the best product owner, who's maximized the value, who's maximized the value the most. And also, like, if you want to throw in any curveballs, which, like I say, you don't have to, this wasn't in Bill's instructions, this is something that I do for fun, that some people quite like. You could throw in curveballs here and there and say one of your developers was off with COVID, or this story turned out to be more than we expected it to be. So it goes back to the backlog, and I'm going to increase the points from 1 to 3. You can do any of that kind of stuff so that they learn that this is an iterative process. Things change, shit happens, you know, things come up. And this is another time when I bring up my Jay Raymond's phrase: "This anything worth doing is worth doing badly at the beginning." So what you will probably notice, or what you should be noticing, is that, you know, the value should increase. As you're increasing the value, it should sort of go up in a sort of you know, in an exponential line almost. Like something like this, and then like big jumps towards the end as they get better at it, so that you're seeing a best fit line that goes like that. Ooh, not backwards, but you know what I mean.